Hey everybody, Michael Johnson here, and today we're going to talk about being in a peak state.
Hi, my name is Michael Johnson. I'm a ballroom dance professional, a life coach, and a peak performance expert. I'm part of a group of motivated people who are dedicated to attaining emotional mastery and unlocking our full potential. We don't believe others are responsible for how we feel. In fact, we don't believe anyone can make us feel anything. We believe in the magic of ballroom dance. It has taught us how to improve our bodies, challenge our minds, and inspire our souls. And in return, I want to share those lessons with the world. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life.
Hey guys, so excited to be able to talk to you today. It's about one of my favorite subjects, and I wanted to be able to share with you some of this knowledge that I've gained through the years. And this is all about being in a peak state. It's really interesting. I walk around and see people on a regular basis in not a peak state. Now, what does that mean? A peak state is when your body is in a state of being that is exactly the right place for what you're trying to learn, the right strategy for what you're trying to learn or what you're trying to experience. For example, if you are at Disneyland, the peak state would probably be of excitement and happiness and being ready to have some fun. But if you showed up in the wrong state, maybe a sad or depressed state, it would probably not be appropriate for walking around Disneyland. But what is a peak state? A peak state is really all about your physiology being in a primed and ready to go mode. And so if you sit there right now as we're listening to this, you can kind of get an idea of this. If you sit there and you crunch down and you hunch your shoulders over and kind of close in your center and close in your arms and kind of roll into a little bit of a ball there where you're sitting, you can kind of feel that your body starts to change and your mind starts to change with it. So there's this element of your state changing because your mind is saying, hey, your body is telling you to be sad or maybe be afraid, because what we do is we teach our physiology, we teach our body to actually respond and take shortcuts as much as we can. Because if you had to actually remember to do everything all the time, if you had to think of everything all the time, your mind would go crazy. So it gets these shortcuts, these little anchors that it can remember quickly. And some of those are physiological anchors. That means that your body remembers it quickly. So if you hunch over and you curl into a ball, your brain goes, I've got to remember that. What's that from? And it takes a shortcut and it says, oh, he's trying to be sad. Oh, body is telling me I should be depressed, or the body is telling me that I should be fearful or afraid, because when you roll and curl into that ball, that's the state that you're implying that you should be in from your body. So what we've learned is one of the ways to change our state is to change our physiology, change our body first. And that's huge, especially coming from someone who's taught ballroom all their life. I know straight away that if I can help change your body and change that physiology that you're in, you're going to be primed and ready to learn. And this is huge. For those of you that are dancers out there that are finding your way here, you know that if you go into a lesson as a dancer, not in the right physical state, you're not going to learn as much from that lesson. Now, for those of you that maybe have found your way here that aren't quite considering yourselves dancers yet, you can change your body, you can change your physical state very easily to get into a peak state of learning. And that's really what we're after. And so here's what I challenge you to do. I want you to think about the state of your body when you're learning next time. For some of you who are in school, maybe college, maybe high school, maybe any kind of schooling or education. And oftentimes what I think they do wrong is they sit you down in a classroom and they get you the closest to your not peak state and ready to learn. Well, not so ready to learn. One of the things I saw in some of my kids' classrooms when I went to visit the other day is that they had desks that were tall, and some of the kids were standing up to do all of their work at the tall desks. And I thought, man, that's a great idea. What a great progression forward. We're learning by standing up, keeping their bodies moving and active and keeping them in a peak state, but not letting them curl into a ball and kind of lay their head down or put their head on their hand and lean their elbow on their desk and get into a state that isn't really going to help them learn. So we want to stay away from that. And of course, we love in ballroom and in all of our lessons that we can actually get your body moving, and we can get you into a peak state and a better state of operation to learn and to improve your body. Now, one of the cool things about this is from a mind, body, soul perspective, you can actually get your body ready to go physiologically. And by doing that, you're kind of commanding your mind and your soul to be prepared to take in new information. And this is great. This is what we're really after. And so as you go through your life, as you know you have to learn something new, maybe it's anywhere. It doesn't necessarily have to be in school, but maybe it's just some new thing you have to learn. Get your body into a peak state. Roll your shoulders back, and try it right now if you can. Roll your shoulders back. Pick up your center and lift from your core, from your abs. Lift up and bring your head up as best you can and look up towards the sky. And that's it. If you just look up, roll your shoulders back, have your hands in front of you and open your hands up to the ceiling. Now what you feel right there is your body starts to go, oh, something important's coming. What's important? What do I have to learn? What do I have to get by being in that peak state? You can also change your state by manipulating your breathing. Your breathing is your life source. It's your lungs. It's how you get your heart rate up or down. And how you breathe also helps you feel the way that you want to feel. And so you can start to change your state by breathing well. And you can try to take a nice deep breath in and go, and then a nice deep breath out. And if you go slow for a little bit, it'll calm you down and it'll get your being to be a little bit more calm. But if you wanted to be in a little bit more exciting state, think about how you would breathe if you were excited. You might be a little bit more, you might breathe a little bit faster. And so think about how you would breathe in that state that you need to be in. Now, I'm not saying that you should always be in an excited state. But I am saying that maybe a sad or depressed state isn't the most useful when you're trying to learn something important that you need to get right away. So let's think about this. I was thinking about it the other day in terms of a peak state, and being able to learn in a peak state is so important. But what happens is we get so stuck in our ways of learning. Sometimes we hunch over our shoulders. Sometimes we get into this really thoughtful position and we put our hand on our chin or something and or on our glasses, and we think, gosh, that's going to help me learn because we've imitated some other people learning in that state. But that doesn't always work for everybody. So you have to think about the best physical state that you can be in to be able to learn. And that's what I'm challenging you to do. And again, it doesn't matter what you're learning. Maybe you're learning about something at the post office. It doesn't really matter. But here's an idea of how learning in a peak state is so useful and so functional. Have you ever gotten in a car wreck? I have. Twice. One of them was a smaller one and one was a little bit bigger. But one of the things that's unique, I'll tell you a little bit about that car crash that I got in. I was driving down this major interstate and there were lights every so often. And as I was driving down the road, I wasn't tired or anything, but I did have some music on and I was driving down. It was middle of the day. The sun was out, probably about 2-3 o'clock, and I don't know what happened, but I do know that as I was driving down the street, then one moment everything was fine. I was wide awake. There was music on. The next moment, I remember very clearly lifting my head up. Now, that's a very strange sensation when you're in a car because I was lifting my head up, and as my eyes focused on what was ahead of me, I had veered to the left. And on the left side of the street, there were 2 turning lanes to go across this major intersection. And then there were 2 more lanes of cars coming the other direction. As I realized what was happening, it seemed as though, and maybe you remember this from any kind of accident or car accident you've been in, it seemed as though the world slowed down around me. And as I was moving, I had to have been going 40 miles an hour, easy, 50 maybe, and everything slowed down and I saw everything. I saw the cars coming on the other side of the street, and to this day it is etched in my mind, and I remember seeing the line of cars ready to turn to their left. and I was heading right towards them. And as I was heading towards them, I saw the people's expression, the faces of the people in the two cars, and I still have it in my mind today. And those two cars started to veer, one to the left, which they were afraid of because there were cars coming from my side, and one to the right, and they were worried about it because there were cars coming up on the left, and you could see the fear. And I remember the fear and that they were scared. And as they did that, they were starting to clear a little bit of a path for me to sort of sneak right between them. And then I still remember the faces of the next two people and the next two cars behind them, seeing the same thing and trying desperately to scoot their cars over a little bit. And as I was doing that, of course, the first thing I was thinking was slam your foot on the brake. And as those two cars were moving two directions, there was this wedge that I was about to fit through. And I couldn't turn to the left and I couldn't turn to the right. And I headed straight into it. And I remember just like hanging on and grabbing the steering wheel, pushing on the brake as hard as I could. And the car was screeched to a stop. And as it did, both sides of the mirrors on both sides of my car got completely knocked off. The cars were like, I felt like I was just squishing in between a space that I didn't fit in. And everything just etched itself into my mind. As things came to back to reality and back to a real speed from that slow motion, I remember just bawling and looking around to see if anything was hurt. And then I remember getting out of my car so afraid that I had maybe killed somebody or hurt or injured some other people, and just being in complete shock. And somebody came over, and I remember some guy grabbed me and was like, okay, you got to sit down. And they took me over to the curb, and other cars had stopped. And it seemed as though seconds went by and there were ambulance and cars, police cars driving up to see if everybody was okay. And everything just sort of started going back into real life. Now, in that moment, in that peak state, in the most heightened state, I remember such crazy details of all of that experience, of all of that moment. And it just absolutely etched itself into my mind. And how crazy is that? But in that peak state, the mind kicked into this place where it could actually absorb and learn and take in everything so well that my brain was able to slow down time so I could get more information to try to protect myself. This is being in a peak state. Now, obviously, we don't want to get into car wrecks or have major accidents to get into these peak states, but we do want to try to get our minds and our body into these peak states when we're going into situations where we want to learn and get the most out of those situations. This is huge, right? So we want to be able to manipulate that. Now we can do that. You can stand up, you can pump your hands up into the air, and you can get your blood flowing. You can start breathing at a little bit of a faster rate, and you can start thinking of a peak state that you'd like to be in. Maybe it's excitement, maybe it's happiness, maybe it's calmness. But whatever that peak state is, you want to get there and you want to double it, and you want to be in that moment, in that state as best you can, so that you can prepare yourself for the right moment and the right things that you're trying to learn in, to be able to just get absorbed right into your mind. This is huge. It is being in a different mode. And this is huge. What that different mode in is, it feels a little different. People explain it differently. Each of us explain it in our own words. I feel as though it's like being on a different plane of thinking or operating. And it gets me into this place where everything seems to flow and everything's coming to me. When you want to get and be the most creative, sometimes, and not sometimes, all the time, it's great to get into a peak state where you can actually pull the best information out of your mind and all of your experiences out. And so it helps to be in a peak state. This is huge for learning strategies, for executing on a regular basis, for getting information out of your own mind, but also for learning information and putting stuff in. This is huge. Get into a peak state. It's time now to change your state. And this is huge. If you can do this on a daily basis, it'll get easier, and you can start to anchor in those feelings of being in a peak state, and it'll get easier and easier to get back to those peak states. This is so important. It's so important. It'll change your life forever. It'll change what you do on a regular basis. So I challenge you right now to change your state, change your shoulders, change your posture. If you can, stand up, jump around, breathe a little bit stronger, breathe the way you would when you were the most creative or you were the most excited, and get yourself into that state. And this will help you to be able to learn better and execute better. So go try it out. Try it out today, and you'll see it's a really great process. Take a couple deep breaths, maybe breathe a little bit faster, maybe think about some of these experiences that have been great experiences, not like the car wreck that we were talking about, but like a great experience where you found yourself being super successful, and jump around and get yourself excited and get yourself ready to go. I hope this helps. I hope that thinking about this peak state will help you get into a better place in the next couple of days, but I want you to try it out and give it a try. And we will talk to you again at the next podcast. I'm excited to share with you the next thing. So stay tuned. And if you haven't yet, like or subscribe to the podcast, you can do that on iTunes. Just take a look below and hit the like button. If you have some great comments, we'd love to hear from you. I would specifically love to hear about how you found some success with some of this stuff. So write some comments below. It'll help me to know to keep doing this and keep giving you great content. And if you haven't yet, check out Ballroom for Life, or even go follow us on Dance Magic's Facebook page, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Are you loving Magic for Life? Please like and share our podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Want more magic for your life? Join me for some great Facebook Lives on the official Facebook page at Michael A. Johnson Official.